the board that we ended up designing was the CI Pro. We just wanted to make a board that we felt like could just elevate our surfing, and so it has a pretty rocker template, and it's super continuous. So there's kind of like constant curve going through the whole thing, with a somewhat of a flatter tail rocker though. It kind of tapers off and it doesn't go like super drastic flip off the end. So it's still really drivey, but you can kind of maneuver really close to the pocket and in tight, steep spaces, with all the curve. And then it's kind of got like a pretty down tapered rail on it, and it has quite a bit of tuck. So the idea behind that was that when you were going to go roll over from rail to rail, that the board had like a shape on the underside of the rail that would kind of like roll into the face of the wave really easy and engage pretty effortlessly. And then the final component was the fin placement. And that was like, we kind of got a little lost on the fin placement for a little while just because there's so many options. But we ended up in a position that we felt like added a lot of drive and kind of, I guess, like speed to the board with still maintaining like that loose, easy transition feel. And, I'm really proud of how it turned out. And I feel like I'm getting the best boards that I've gotten from Channel Islands. And I'm seeing guys doing incredible surfing all over the world on it. So I feel like it's kind of right now it's moved into that, like, okay, this is kind of, if you want to get just a good high performance shortboard and try to rip, this is a board.
I was just watching the CI Pro movie that just came out for the new board model. And I was thinking it's one of the first times in a long time, actually maybe Snapped 4 would be the other recent example, where it's like an old school surf movie where it's a mashup of locations. It's a mashup of surfers. Everybody's got their own section. And it allows you to do what you're talking about really well, which is watch one surfer and isolate something that they're really good at, that you're like, oh God, that's a reminder. I need to do that. Cut to Dane Gudauskas, who's doing very little with his body and his arms. His just positioning is perfect. And you're like, oh man, I got to do less of everything and just do what Dane's doing, And then it cuts to somebody else and you're like, oh, it's really, I forgot how much I used to get out of old school surf movies in that regard, because now it's just watching somebody in a long form Torn Martin going on a long 6-month excursion somewhere or something like that.
Totally. Yeah, no, I mean, the parts, like, that's why the beauty of the surf movie is that you have those parts, and at the end of the day, surfing is such a huge platform for self-expression that you'd expect every single surfer to bring something different to the table. And I think that's kind of like the beauty of surfing, is that you just want to like unlock whatever your interpretation is and bring that to the surface. And I think, Dane, like you said, Dane Gudauskas is like a perfect example in that hi-fi shred edit. He just brings his own whole aesthetic and feel to it, but it's still really high performance. It's just, it's different, like he's standing in the middle of a board that's probably a little bit, I would probably guess a couple inches longer than everybody else is riding in the edit. Looks like it's borderline a step up, but he's just moving in this really unique way. And it's kind of like this beautiful blend of like old school 70s lines with like modern hardcore rail surfing. And he's kind of like owning his uniqueness, I think, right now. And it's really special to see. Like, I'm a huge fan of it.
Me too. I'm a bigger fan of his now than ever, actually.
Yeah, me too.
And it's funny. I had to keep checking to make sure he was on the high performance thruster. Like he'd get up and riding and he'd pull into the tube and then he comes out and he's doing a turn. And I'd be like, wait, is that the same board? Yeah. And then he like does like a snap at the end of the turn. And I go, oh yeah, there it is, but you think that he's riding something lower or, like a single fin or something.
Yeah. He's just, he took that kind of, standard baseline of the shortboard and then just totally brought his own flavor to it. And it's awesome to watch. That's actually probably my favorite part of the whole movie. I thought was his part, him or Pat's part. They both really they both are kind of, they're bringing like their best surfing. And I think it's awesome. Like even Tanner too. Like I just hung out with Tanner and I saw some clips of Tanner. Like those three they found that like kind of constant progression, arc where it seems like they're not slowing down in their performance. If anything, like they've kind of freed themselves up to really like get better, you know, and it's fun to see. I think seeing people improve at surfing is like the best thing ever.
It's funny. The talk and the conversation in the last couple of years is deviated away from high performance shortboards, and everybody's more comfortable riding everything. And even Channel Islands has put out a lot of successful, from the mid-length model to the free scrubber and the twin pin and whatever. Those have all been trends, but CI's always done those, you know, like they've had a mid-length for 20 or 30 years. It's not a new trend for them. It's a trend in the marketplace that they're benefiting from, and they've designed a new board that kind of supplies that trend. But equally, they've always made the pointy high performance thruster as well. And it just hasn't been a part of the public conversation. And I feel like they have fewer team riders on tour now than ever before. But still, look at what Joao Chianca is doing on the boards. And I think Jackson Baker's on the team too. There are still examples of the pointy thruster being ridden to great success on tour, you know?
Totally. And I think, you know, with the like, I whatever you want to call them, alternative boards, like, you know, the twin pins or the bobby quads or fish beards, those are actually performance enhancing in the right conditions. And so there's a time and a place that you could bring those boards out and unlock new parts of your surfing that will let you do things that you can't do on a regular thruster. However, there's the regular thruster with, you know, rocker or whatever, that's going to allow you to really kind of take lines that you can't take on those alternative boards when the waves are well suited for that type of board. So it's kind of this like game that you're always kind of constantly playing with, like trying to pick the board that is going to bring the most out of your surfing. And I think people enjoy like just, you know, something kind of different and fun and skatey when the waves are small. So it's been great for the market to have like other options than just that high performance shortboard. But the ethos of Channel Islands has always been high performance surfing, and like working with the best surfers is how we're going to create the best boards, I guess, you know? And even though there's not a guy on the team that's like in a world title position at this very moment, feel like guys around the world and like good high profile surfers are picking up the boards and seeing the surfing going on the boards and being like, oh yeah, Merricks are looking good, you know? So as long as that's kind of like the rep, and I guess the people still see that in the boards, that's all that matters, you know?
Yeah.